Starting up the strooms, starting up the strooms, starting up the strooms, starting them up the strooms. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, twerkers, jerkers, and lurkers, witches, liches, and bitches? It is time once again for Johnston Blackhorse Does the Drawings, but this one is titled Humble Dono Streams because I am in need of some donos. Earlier today, HughesNet, who I'm not, who I no longer have an account with, charged me over $300, and the reason for that being is it's $300 for the satellite and well the equipment, but they were supposed to send me a box to pack up this equipment and send it back to them in order to avoid that charge. So they told me they sent out the box and all I have to do is pack it up, ship it out, and we'll be good. So I'm thinking fine. So I start waiting for the box and waiting for the box and waiting for the box. Eventually I forget about the box, totally spaced it until today when they charged me the fucking over $300 for the equipment. So I called HughesNet, let them know what's going on, and say like, oh yeah, you were supposed to ship the box. It's like, yeah, but you were supposed to fucking send me the box to ship it back in. So in clearing up the confusion, like, both sides messed up, because after 10 days, I guess I was supposed to let them know like, hey, I haven't received your box. And then they were supposed to send out another one. But on their end, somehow they misplaced the box. So like we both fucked up. But I'm starting to see if this is somewhat of like a gray area scam. So like maybe like an account holder closes their account and HughesNet says, oh yeah, sure, like we'll send you out a box, send that stuff back to us, and we won't charge you the $300 or so for it. And then they quietly just don't send a box, and the people who don't complain about it and just take the hit anyway, they just take that money. I'm wondering if that's what they do, because like the operator on the other end, like, oh, this has never happened before. Like, yeah, right, sure. But we work something out. So they're gonna send me a box. I'm gonna pack up the stuff and then send it out, and they'll reimburse me after I send it out. But in the meantime, I am fucking shit out of luck. 300 or so bucks. But yeah, Melody says it's total bollocksy bullshit. So I'm doing like a dono stream to like see if like I can garner up some of that money, because fucking these charges came at a time where I was not prepared for it, and I have fucking negative, I'm pretty much negative 340. So I should write that down right now. I'll write it down in this corner in a new layer. What's this layer about? Oh, that's the sword. Okay. And I'm going to title this layer, if I can title it. Oh, there we go. Dono Stroom goal. So, this is going to be my Dono Stroom goal. I am about 300, but I should do this in red. I am, okay, so I'm negative 300 and, no wait, 300 and, let me look up that amount again. Okay. I'm negative like 330 and some change, but I'm gonna put 340 simply because of the whole like fucking transfer fees when I have to like have these the donation money transferred over, and for the amount of like 330, they're gonna take like a cut of like several dollars, so it may be I will have to ask for 340, and that will probably just barely cover that amount. So donation, my donation is set as at 340. Don't everybody all donate at once now. I'm kidding. You know, I know I'm not that popular. I know I'm not that widespread. Oh shit! Speaking of which, I'm making a Dono stream, and I should tweet about it. I rarely do Dono streams. It's like, yeah, like the donation buttons are there, but it's not often I copy the link and then paste it. That's how you do it. But like fucking, ah shit, why didn't it generate the preview? There we go. All right. Melody says, like I said, get in touch with your bank and get this payment rescinded. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, but unfortunately I can't do that to a pending transaction. For some reason, there's like an option to dispute a payment, but that's only for transactions that have cleared. Like they won't do that for pending transactions for some reason. So yeah, once that clears, like I'm gonna see what I can do to dispute it and explain the situation. Maybe they can put that money on hold until like fucking HughesNet reimburses it. Like they should reimburse it within the same day I ship it out. But even then, getting it shipped out is going to cost me some money. Like, sure, like the shipping and handling on their side will most likely be covered. But for me to drive out all the way to a UPS center, that's like fucking 2 hours away. I'm going to need some gas money for that. I'm going to need some gas money for that shit. Fucking thinking about all this stuff that's like more or less falling apart. And like, man, 2 hour drive, and my fucking ride needs new tires. Oh jeez. And this is all coming after I just paid off this cabin. Like, yes, I can finally rest. The cabin is paid off. I own it. The cabin is mine. And then all this stuff starts coming out of left field, which is something I was speculating. Like, I was thinking, like, usually when I get like a large sum of money, a lot of bullshit starts snowballing. And like, I want to use this money for like a specific thing, but all this other fucking drama and problems like keep triggering and like popping off. Like, oh shoot, I have to allocate the money I was going to use for this to all this fucking little bullshit. And then like I'm out of money. And that's always how it happens. So I was like expecting some bullshit to happen. Up to the point where I was gonna like pay off my cabin, but like fucking I was like more or less free and clear for the most part. There was just like a whole like a little issue with my direct deposit setup. It almost didn't go through, but it went through thankfully. So I got the money, and immediately once I got that money in my bank, I fucking dropped it all on this cabin so I can pay it off. So no more $500 a month payments. And I save on another I save an extra like $500 because I paid it off early. So glad to be done with that. But now, once that's done, that's when all this like little fucking nickel and dime bullshit starts popping up. Like, fucking hell. I knew it. I knew it was like either gonna hit me right before I paid off the cabin, or it was like right around the corner. I fucking knew it. But maybe that's just my negative energy. Stop expecting the worst and stop receiving the worst, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Oh shit. I moved the tail. Oh shit. No, I didn't. I moved this piece. So I'd really appreciate it if I received donations, you know, like any amount helps. Cause I got bills coming out like starting tomorrow. And I have negative money to deal with that. I think I'm gonna do the wings on an extra layer. Like a behind the layer. Oh shit, I should have fucking saved this link and posted it on my Discord. Fucking hell. Okay. All right. Until we get more crowds of people coming in, it's like only like well, there was one viewer, but he ducked out. Like donations? No, I'm leaving. I don't know, but maybe he's still here. I don't know. I'm just poking fun. Is this playing? There we go.
Midnight crew, thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining
What's up, Iso?
For the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Oh, funny thing also this morning. Oh, yeah, Dasko Draws is here, and Iso's like, what's all this then? I explained, oh shit, I should have fucking like posted this earlier. I just now thought of it. But yeah, I was explaining that fucking HughesNet sort of did a rug pull on me, and they charged me like 300 plus bucks for the equipment that I had not sent back.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Thank you, love. Thank you. Donation from Mini Ruri. But as I was saying, like HughesNet did like a slight rug pull. Like the agreement was that that's like they send me a box, I pack up the HughesNet equipment, and I send it back. And that would save me like $300 for the equipment fee. Because if I don't send it back, if I decide to keep it, they'll charge me $300 or so dollars. So I was like, okay. So I've been sitting here like waiting for this shipment box, like waiting and waiting. Eventually I just like fucking spaced it and forgot about it all up until today, when I saw that HughesNet charged me $300 plus for the equipment that I had not sent back. So I called them like, WTF, man, what the fuck, buddy? Like, you charged me for this, and like I know I'm supposed to send the equipment back, but you guys were supposed to send me the box. I never got that box. And I totally forgot about it until just now. So like took some time over the phone, a little bit of back and forth, like but they're sending out a new box, and I should be receiving that within 3 business days. If I don't, give them a call back, and once I receive it, pack up the equipment, head to the nearest UPS station, which is like fucking 2 hours away, 2-hour drive, and give it to the UPS people, get the tracking number, and call HughesNet back again, give them the tracking number, and then they'll fucking reimburse me the $300+. But in the meantime, I got bills coming out, so I gotta fucking get back in the green because I am fucking in the red right now. Woo! Okay, yeah. Melody has donated 35 monies so I can chop. $35 off of that, which leaves us $305 left to go. Yay! Yes! We're getting there. Fucking getting there. Thank you, love. But yeah, this is just like me trying to like shore up some money for the bills that are coming out. And so I don't fucking get an overdraft fee from my bank. But of course, like once that transaction goes through, I'm going to dispute it. Let the bank know the situation. It's like, hey, they weren't supposed to take out this money. We're working something out. Or I'm going to like give them what they need and they reimburse me. So hold off on this fucking transaction until we get things squared away. Oh yeah, you can send refs on Discord. So that's what's going on. Like I usually don't do donation streams. Like the option to donate is always there for people who feel up to it. But this is like the first time I've been put in like a tight spot like this in a long while. But with the whole HughesNet thing, after the back and forth, we found that was like an error on both parts. Like I was supposed, after 10 days of not receiving the box, I was supposed to like let them know what was going on, but I fucking spaced it. Thinking like, oh, I'll get that box any day now, and then eventually I just fucking forgot. And then on their ends, They fucking lost the box. So this is like a donation stream just to get me back in the green for some important bills that are coming out like starting tomorrow. Oh yeah, I was gonna listen to some stories.
When you were little, did you ever see or experience something that didn't make much sense? I remember when I was about 8, my family moved into some condos in my hometown. Nice enough place, about 6 apartments to a building. Each building was a big gray block with narrow walkways between. At one point, I was standing next to my dad at night while he was talking to a friend. We were at the end of one of the walkways. As I was wont to do at that stage of my life, I wandered off by myself, down between 2 of the buildings. Strangely enough, when I got to the end, I met my father. He was hunched over a little bit, fidgeting and making weird sputtering sounds, breathing a little raspy. I said to him, "Dad." He looked down at me and replied in a broken, high-pitched voice, "I'm not your dad, I'm just pretending to be." I turned around and ran back to the other end of the walkway, and Pop was still there, talking to one of his friends. Who else has strange stories like this from their childhood? All of my friends heard or saw something odd when they were younger. Sometimes I've wondered if children aren't just prone to hallucinating, and maybe that's what I saw.
My parents used to take me to one of the city parks in my hometown at least once a week. One summer evening, when I was 4 or 5, we went to the biggest park in the city, a city of only 17,000 people, and found it mostly empty. That didn't surprise my parents because we arrived around dusk on a weekday. They left me to play around one of the 3 playgrounds while they sat on a bench. I climbed around it for a while, and then used the slide on the opposite side. I slid down and landed at the feet of what appeared to be a person in a pink and purple panda suit. As strange as that sounds, I remember it vividly. The suit was pink where a panda is white and purple where it would be black. And I remember it picked me up and spun me around, which I found quite fun. I remember during that point getting the distinct impression that I was completely alone with the panda and that my parents simply didn't exist. The spinning would have happened in full view of my parents, but the only time I ever brought it up after becoming an adult, they just looked at me blankly. They do remember that particular trip because I talked about a man in a panda suit, but they never saw the panda suit.
Until about the time I turned 9, I could never sleep with my door closed. I always feared something in my room getting me before I could get out, It doesn't help that my eyesight went bad at a young age. I currently wear a -7 prescription for both eyes and things tend to look like they're moving when I take off my glasses.
Oh God. Oh. Is my eye really that bad? It's like last I checked, I got 20 negative. Oh shit, I can't remember now. No. It's 20/120 vision. Cuz like this one's really bad. Or is that -120? Cuz even like sitting right here like reading my screen, which is like fucking about like a foot and a half away from me, almost like 2 feet. I can't read a fucking thing. I got to get my glasses. I got to get some glasses again.
It would seem like my closet door, which never closed, would slightly wobble back and forth. The last time I slept with my door open, I woke up because of a flickering light in the hallway outside of my room. I opened my eyes in time to see the bathroom across the hall light up and go dark several times in succession. It turns out that the light shorted out that night. But what I saw in the time the light flickered was a tall figure walking past my door. At first I figured it might be my father, but when I thought about it the figure's head nearly reached the ceiling and it looked bald, unlike my father. Since then, I can't sleep with my door open, even a crack. Mostly because, after I take my glasses off...
Melody has sent me some reference to start doodling on a piece. So I shall start doing so.
It appears to move slightly.
I have two fairly interesting stories to tell. When I was about 11 or 12, I had something weird happen. I hadn't really had a very good memory, but I really don't remember a lot from when I was little. Bits and pieces, mostly black and white. But one night I was lying in bed, and I think some sort of thing was visiting me. Maybe in my dream, maybe it was just a dream, but it told me a bunch of stuff. I don't remember what it said, or even if it was in English. Then it did something and put its hand in my stomach, to which I woke up and was sweating, laying on my stomach and promptly flew up off my bed about 2 or 3 feet like I was slammed in the gut. It left me breathless for a while and scared the shit out of me. I felt more sentient after that and grew far more intelligent than I was. I still have no clue what it was. Second, my middle school supposedly had a haunted gym. I didn't give a crap, nor did I believe it. One day I was walking by the doors to it and the halls were empty except me. And the doors are old medium weight wood, with a space in between where light shines through and you can peek in. I was walking past to get to class and saw this white mass in the gym out of the corner of my eye. I stopped and did a double take. It looked odd, but I thought it was just the light or this plastic sheet that had been covering a vent that was in there for some time for repairs. I looked back because I thought it originally to be sunlight, then realized it was overcast and raining. I looked in and saw nothing, not even that white plastic. I thought about it for a moment, and the shape and size of this white figure would have been the size of a middle schooler sitting against a wall with a book on their legs.
I'm from a rural area in the Canadian prairies, and I live in a 120-year-old farmhouse with many houses of similar ages around the countryside. Many of these places are abandoned, due to the poor farming economy of the past 40 years and whatnot. Anyway, my dad tells me stories about the people he went to school with in the 50s and 60s as a kid. He mentions one kid from a creepy family that never left their farm, which was a big deal at the time, because everyone knew everyone in the country. Apparently both parents died in their home without seeking medical attention and the boy was sent to an insane asylum. Hell yeah, 1960. Shit, this is gonna be long. When I got my license at 16, I drove my friends out from the city and we tried to find a good place to get high without being noticed. We found an approach to an old farmhouse and barn that were obviously long abandoned, so we thought it would be okay to try it there. I suggested we check the place out prior to pot, so we walked up to the house, dead of night. Shit was decrepit, no door, windows broken, peeling paint, etc. There was nothing in the room nearest the entranceway save for an old armchair and documents scattered everywhere. We didn't want to go upstairs because it looked unsafe, so we checked out the barn. The barn was slumped on one side and full of chains, hooks and slaughterhouse equipment. We assumed they must have been killing their own livestock, but everything had deteriorated and was full of rust/blood stains on the cutting boards, etc. We left. Fast. Didn't bother getting high either, just drove home. 2 days later, my dad mentioned the creepy family in conversation again, saying that their old barn had burnt to the ground a few nights ago. Never made the connection until I drove by the place in the daylight a few weeks later, same place, totally burnt down. My friends and I were the last ones to see it, and we certainly didn't start the fire.
Yikes, that's creepy. Mine's not so creepy, but weird. My very first memory is just the sensation of watching this swirling black and white and gray shifting pattern. I don't know how long I watched it, but suddenly it just vanished, and I was sitting on our couch. It was strange, now when I think about it, because from the way I acted at that point, it's like I knew things without thinking about them, but I didn't know any details. I was 4. I knew the kid beside me was my brother. I heard my mom talking on the phone, and I ran up to her and yelled, "Mom," several times, but knowing my brother and knowing her, it just felt like not real at first, like I was going through the motions. Eventually, I got her attention, and I asked her my name. She told me, and I corrected her that I wanted to know my full name, which she told me. Satisfied, I went back to the couch, hitting the triangle-shaped button on the VCR, and a show started playing. Apparently, the folks had shown me how to work the play button. My point is, it was strange, like I was only a conscious after that magical day when I was 4, and my body was doing the driving until then.
When I was about 12 or 13, 5 or 6 years ago, I had a friend that lived in the middle of nowhere. His house was in the middle of the woods, all of his neighbors, about 3 houses, were either old people or people who didn't come out much. Him and I were out in the woods with machetes hacking out new trails that branched off from the main trail he used for quadding. Nothing was weird at all. We were out there for hours, and when the sun just started to set, we decided to go back to his house. We each brought a flashlight just in case, but at this point we didn't have to use them. We walked for about 15 minutes until we reached the main quad trail. His house was probably another 15 minutes away. At this point it was just about dark enough to still be able to see, but not make any specific details as to what you were looking at. We still didn't need to use our flashlights. We were just walking along talking about dumb boy shit when we heard rustling in the bushes behind us. Didn't scare us much because there are a bunch of deer where I live. He turned around to check out how close the deer was, and as I kept walking I heard him quietly say, "Dude." I remember thinking that the deer must be really close and that he wanted my attention, so I turned around to look. What I saw wasn't a deer. It was probably about 20 to 30 feet away and was the shape of an 8 to 10 foot man. It just stood there. It didn't have a threatening posture, it just looked like it was, well, standing around. As I said before, it was that time of dusk where you couldn't really make any details in what you saw that wasn't within like 5 feet of you. That is all that I could see of it, a tall, broad, and dark silhouette of this thing. Right after I turned and saw it, I made a weird cry that I can still remember today. My bud and I looked at each other, and then I looked back. It was still there in the same posture. My buddy then said, "Run," in a frightened voice, and when I looked over at him, he was already like 10 feet away from me and running down the trail. I booked it after him and we made the 15-minute trip in what seemed like no time. When we got to his house, the back porch light was on and we couldn't see very well because what was in front of us was shadowed by the light. We went inside and went into his room. He then closed the blinds and the door and we just sat there and caught our breath. We decided to watch a Bruce Lee movie to help us calm down. We did, and when it was done, we played some GameCube for a little bit. It was probably about midnight by now, and my friend said that he left his machete out in the woods. His dad was a pretty strict guy, so he said we needed to go back and get it. So we did. My buddy had a .22 rifle that he was allowed to shoot birds with whenever he wanted, so he grabbed that and a pocket full of rounds, and I grabbed the machete I had when we were out in the woods earlier. He had a super bright electric lantern that he strapped to his belt buckle, and I had a big mag light that belonged to his dad. We walked back through the quad trail, and even though we were both scared shitless, we felt somewhat secure because he had a gun. We eventually made it back to the spot where we saw the thing, and his machete was where he left it on the ground. We couldn't find any prints or anything because the ground was covered in leaves and shit. I carried his machete along with mine back to the house, and it was way more scary because we believed now that the thing would follow us. We got back to his house again and put all of the stuff away. We didn't see the thing on the way back, and I haven't seen it again considering that was the last time I went over to his house. Him and I haven't hung out since then because he changed schools. I haven't talked to him in years. Where I live, the largest animal we have in the wild are deer. I could see this thing being mistaken for a small bear on its hind legs, but there aren't any on or near the island that I live on.
I was 19 and had been drinking with a few friends at a friend's house. Said friend's brother was heavily into LARP stuff and he had all kinds of weird shit in the basement where he lived. I found a machete of all things and decided to steal it. The party died down and I walked a few miles home. It was about 3 a.m. I walked along the railroad tracks, then along a gravel road which ran alongside a slough. I took a shortcut through a small field of one of the houses which I had taken many times before. Halfway up the field's trail I heard a loud ruckus, like metal being banged around, and a dog barking. I saw light from a house up and to my left. Suddenly, a figure that appeared to be covered in a single black robe, face and all, no color to it, and like 7 feet tall and skinny, raced from that lighted house halfway across the field at what looked like 100 miles per hour. It stopped in the middle of the field, about 20 feet away from me, and looked, I could discern no facial features, at me. We stood there looking at each other for what seemed like an eternity in just a few minutes. I didn't know what to do, and slowly grabbed the machete from my bag and continued watching it for a few more minutes. It was like the only thing that existed was the entity and I. The stalemate proved fruitless, so I slowly continued walking off. As soon as I did, it bolted away at crazy speed.
This doesn't apply to real life, but when I was little I had recurring nightmares, happened from about 3 to 6 or 7 years old, that I would be playing in a ball pit alone. The days were always cloudy and then I would move to another section of the ball pit to play in the rest of the playhouse thing. I would climb in the slide and start sliding down, then after a little while a clown would appear behind me. The clown would always be trying to grab me, but be just out of arm's reach from me. He almost always had an evil smile on his face. I just kept sliding, but I would be in a third-person view, where I would watch myself getting chased by the evil clown, and although I was only a child, somehow I knew he was trying to kill me. I remember having that dream many times and waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat with a sore throat. The next morning my mom would ask if I was alright because I would get dart up in bed and let out a terrified scream.
One time when I was around 3 or 4, I was sitting in the back seat of my mom's van at night. I can't clearly remember why we were out that particular night, most likely picking one of my siblings up from somewhere. I, like probably a lot of kids, didn't wear my seatbelt, and while looking over the edge of my seat I saw a man or teenage boy lying on the car floor staring up at me. He spoke to me, and I don't remember what he said now, but when I moved off my seat to join him, he complained that I was stepping on him. For some reason I was neutral to this whole phenomena, and while it could have been a dream, I clearly remember it happening in real time. Around the same age, I was lying on the floor playing with one of my toys beside my pet black cat, and she began talking to me. I spoke back to her. Then all of a sudden she just started screaming, like human-like screaming, and I stared at her, and she never spoke again from that day on. I was the only one in the room who noticed this, because I wasn't alone in the room. On another occasion, I was walking down the hallway, and I looked over the hallway divider and noticed a dark figure standing up amidst the darkness filling the family room, and no one was in there. From my mental perspective at the time, it looked like a distorted man, but I've always just written that one off as my imagination. Also, for the record, I'm not schizophrenic nor do I have any other mental issues that would induce hallucinations, and I most certainly don't take drugs, haha. Then there was the time, years later when I was around 6 or 7, where I was dreaming that I was dinosaur hunting or something of that nature with a childhood friend, and then there was a loud ringing out of nowhere that wouldn't go away, like the kind of ring you get in your ears. My dream went black, and I was conscious, but for the life of me I couldn't open my eyes, and my ears were continuing to ring like crazy. I can't remember if I had woken up previously and left my room to fall asleep on the couch in the family room, but I was lying there, panicking and clawing at my eyelids while crying out and calling for my parents. It was terrifying. My dad came running in, asking me urgently what was wrong as he grabbed my arm to check on me, and I could finally open my eyes. I wouldn't call it paranormal, but it was freaky. Nothing like it has happened since.
I remember back when I was around 4, I lived in a townhouse with my parents and my older cousin. My parents were pretty young back then, 22, and my cousin was 15. They would always be out drinking together. Anyways, I had this dream that felt real, probably the earliest dream I can remember, of being outside our townhouse. My parents were drinking with my cousin and his friends. Then I remember something grabbing me by my shirt and yanking me. I tried to run and then I woke up. The weird thing is, I woke up looking at myself, like I was above my body. I could feel my legs moving like I was running, like an out-of-body experience, I guess. Anyways, later, when we moved, my parents told me they thought the house was haunted because of several things that happened there. Which brings up my second memory. I remember my parents used to leave me upstairs to bathe on my own, and I used to be too scared to get up and dress, so I would sit in the tub for a long time. I remember I used to see people walking towards the door and then disappearing. Shit gives me the creeps thinking about it.
I was at camp with my 3rd grade class, and we slept in these 2 separate gender-divided dorms on the campsite with little cubicles with 1 bunk bed in each. I was sleeping on the top bunk because that's how I roll. I was never one to sleep at night, and I'm still not, but I managed to force myself to because I had nothing else to do but lie there. I had a pretty bad nightmare from there, though I can't remember it now, and when I opened my eyes I saw a pair of large red eyes on the cubicle wall beside me staring back before closing. That freaked me out, but what can you do when your teacher threatens suspension to anyone found outside their bed during the night? So I forced myself back to sleep. That morning, I woke up with my sleeping bag slipping halfway off the bed, along with one of my legs, and I was freezing. Thinking I must have tossed and turned a lot, I got out of bed, got dressed, did everything as normal. It wasn't until I had returned to my school campus that I had people approaching me and saying weird things, like you nearly gave me a heart attack last night. I had no idea what they were talking about, so I ignored it. When my mom came to pick me up, the teacher wanted to have a word with her, and afterwards she approached me and asked me if I went into the other dorm last night and slammed the door, and I told her no. It turns out that during my sleep, I had hopped down from my bed, and I remember the impact from landing in a crouched position on the floor and went into the other dorm, let the heavy door slam shut behind me, and stood there. When the teachers confronted me, I was mumbling incoherently and wasn't responding, so they affirmed I was sleepwalking and put me back to bed, quite sloppily, from how I had found myself in the morning. I had no history of sleepwalking, but if it wasn't for it being obvious that I would have been in some deep shit. TLDR, sleeping sucks.
Photo is a shot of the stairs up to the front door and living room from my basement. My girlfriend took it early in the morning while I was still asleep, so I couldn't tell you why it's so blurry. When I was younger, the only computers in the house were located in the basement, along with the TV and video games, so I spent a lot of time down there. That basement is creepy, though. Everyone I've ever had over to my house has commented on how it feels weird, and it's always like 10 degrees colder than the rest of the house because it's partially underground. Anyway, one time I was on the computer browsing the internet late at night. Everyone else in the house was asleep upstairs, and it was very quiet. I was reading some forum or other when I saw this shadow creep up behind me in the screen's reflection. It was human-shaped and slender, and I froze as soon as I saw it. After a few minutes of horror, I finally worked up the courage to whip around, and of course nothing was there. I decided to go upstairs and go to sleep after that. Here, more basement tales to come. I was about 12 or 14 when my best friend Tim slept over for the first time. My parents set up the futon in the basement for him. Anyway, when we were eating breakfast the next morning, he told me he'd only sleep over again if he could stay in my room or the living room. Apparently, he woke up in the middle of the night for no reason, scared out of his mind, and then a minute later, the door from the basement to the garage started to shake and bang. I slept through it, and no one else heard it, but he refuses to go down there alone to this day. My younger sister is similarly terrified of the basement, and no one, including her, has any explanation for it. Ever since she was old enough to walk and talk on her own, she steadfastly refused to go down there alone. Even in broad daylight with all the lights on, she'd demand my mom or I stand at the top of the stairs and watch her if she had to go fetch something from down there.
Okay, I've got one. I'm from Louisiana, and I was 4 when Hurricane Andrew rocked the state. We lived in a different house then, and my family had prepared the living room as a kind of little command center to hunker down together and weather the storm. The living room had 2 doorways, no doors, just doorways that led into the hall. The space between the openings was enough to fit a couch and maybe an end table. Anyway, one of the days of the storm the rain had stopped, but the wind was still raging. My mom had opened our front door. There wasn't a screen, but I guess she thought it was okay for some reason and was on the phone. The power was out, and the only light coming in was from the storm cloud outdoors, so everything was this sort of drab gray. The room looked like there was no color. Our couch was folded out into a bed, and my dad was asleep on it. My mom walked back into the bedroom, leaving me alone with my sleeping dad. I don't remember where I got it from, but I had a little red balloon with a yellow string. I was standing on one side of the couch bed, in front of one of the doorways, watching TV and holding the balloon. For some reason, I let go of it and walked around to the other side of the bed, in front of the other doorway. When I turned around, the balloon was exactly where I had left it. Exactly. It hadn't risen up to the ceiling or drifted or anything. It was there, gently swaying at exactly the height I'd left it. I remember just staring at it, feeling this sense of a sort of wrongness about it. I slowly sidestepped into the hallway, which was dark since the only light was filtering from the living room's open door. Slowly, eerily, the balloon drifted through the opposite doorway, stopping in the center of the hallway directly across from me.
Thought a
When I moved
horsefly
back
was
into
on
the
my
living
leg.
room, the balloon followed. I remember feeling very nervous. I don't know what happened next. I guess my mom came back or something. I remember telling her what had happened and being laughed off since I was so young.
Sometimes I wonder if anyone is real or if everything is just a simulation, like I'm the only real conscious person. I guess that's what you call solipsism. When I was young, I always thought about this. Since I was about 3, the age where I first remember being conscious, I had a dream that I was placed on Earth in a field, with concrete all around me. Someone placed me there. My friend was pretty dim-witted. I thought that people had various lives, and that this was his first life, which explained why he was so stupid, but I had lived many lives. I often felt that I was the only conscious person and everyone around me were actors. I haven't experienced weird things, but I remember sleeping once and waking up to the sound of a scratching noise coming from the corner of my room. I would put my head under the covers. Monsters can't hurt you under the covers, I thought, and it would go away. I would come out from under the covers and it would return. Eventually it went away. One thing I can say about my dream is, I think they are important. I've had things I've seen in my dreams happen in real life. They aren't usually clear, but they happen. It's like a puzzle. Maybe my dream from a child means something? One dream I hope isn't real is one where I was told my father was going to die in a very serious tone after a rather silly dream. Me and my friend are almost identical. We like everything the same interests, everything. We see the number 23 everywhere. We started doing research and found out about the law of fives. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, and then we decided to see if we could create this with any number. We randomly chose 9, and now we're finding out that 9 is everywhere too. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Holy Trinity. Earth is the 3rd planet, etc., etc. It's 5:22 a.m. right now. I kinda went into a lot of bullshit with the numerology, but I forgot to mention one thing. When I was really young, I used to live in an apartment, and my mother said that every night I would crawl out of bed and lay on the kitchen floor. She said that she would ask what I was doing, and I said,
So like I've done something similar. Is like I found out that any number that's divisible by 9, it's like if you add the individual numbers up like together, like it'll always equal 9. So let's say 9 times 78. Like 9 times 78 is 702. You take those numbers, 7 plus 0 plus 2, and you get 9. So like I don't think like any other number does that. So let's do like 5. 5 times 16, you get 80. And you add those numbers, it's just like 8. Try with 7. 7 times 4, 28, 8, 9, 10, you get 10. But with 9 times 43, 387. So we add those together. 3 plus 8 plus 7 equals 18, and you add those two numbers together. 8 plus 1 equals 9. 9 times 152. 1,368. So 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 8 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. Like, it always boils down to like 9. So any number you multiply by 9, or like any number that's divisible by 9 will always, if you add each individual number up and like keep adding it down, it'll always equal 9. Every time. So that's why, like, when I get big numbers and I need to figure out what they're divisible by, if it ends in like a number that's divisible by 3, 6, or 9, I always figure that out first. But then, like, usually I'll add up all the numbers together to they're like till it's like a single digit, and it's always divisible by 9. But if it's like a oh shoot, I can't remember how I would figure it out, but I think for the last two numbers, like if they're odd numbers divisible by like at least 3, then chances are that it's divisible by either 3, 6, or 9. So it was pretty cool when I figured that out. I thought it was cool.
Said that there were ghosts in the apartment below us.
Melody says, I'll stick to my mantra of numbers are fucking assholes. Too true.
I was too young to remember this apparently. Nonetheless, the people below us, their father or someone they knew had passed away and later they moved. My mother said that I stopped going into the kitchen after they moved away.
My mom told me a story like this about herself once. She said when she was young there was a crack on the stairs with a guy in it called Hockey, and if anything went near the hole, Hockey would get it and keep it forever. She once dropped one of her sister's toys down the hole, and my grandparents got mad at her. Another time, she said she was dancing in the garden with a soft toy and it went over the wall and she never got it back. She said she thought it went down Hockey's hole. Also, the stairs at my grandparents' house does not have any cracks or anything where Hockey's hole could have been. I guess this isn't the same as the others, it's just sort of muddled memories and kid imagination. It's kind of weird though.
What?
This was
That's
many
it?
years ago,
Stupid
and I had a
story.
really powerful fever at the time and was having nightmarish visions left and right, all the while drifting in and out of consciousness. The one I remember most vividly was my mother appearing in my doorway at about midnight. She had been dead for 6 years or so. I lived with my dad in a beautiful black dress and looking at me, smiling. Keep in mind, I had a fever, so I thought this was all real. I almost leaped out of bed. I was so happy to see her. The only dialogue I can remember is my saying, "Mom, is that really you?" And her only response was her smile widening and widening until she looked pretty much like the dog from Smile.jpg. I was petrified at this point but couldn't take my eyes away. Her huge mouth opened up and said, "Yes, Alex, and I'll never leave you again." She screamed the word again and rushed me with her mouth open, and right when I thought she was going to tear my head off, she dissipated. Powerful shit when you're 12 years old.
Shit, that's crazy. Why is this so quiet? Oh! Like, I got my volume all the way up and everything. There we go. I want to listen to that last part again.
Widening until she looked pretty much. She had been dead for 6 years or so. I lived with my dad in a beautiful black dress and looking at me, smiling. Keep in mind, I had a fever, so I thought this was all real. I almost leaped out of bed. I was so happy to see her. The only dialogue I can remember is my saying, "Mom, is that really you?" And her only response was her smile widening and widening until she looked pretty much like the dog from Smile.jpg. I was petrified at this point but couldn't take my eyes away. Her huge mouth opened up and said, "Yes, Alex, and I'll never leave you again." She screamed the word again and rushed me with her mouth open, and right when I thought she was going to tear my head off, she dissipated. Powerful shit when you're 12 years old.
Damn.
Terrifying. I had something similar when I was a kid. My parents were both alive though. I was 10 or so and had a bad fever.
It's like I've had fever dreams before. I don't quite remember them, but I've had what they refer to as something like Alice in Wonderland syndrome. And I would get it every time I got sick with the flu or like a stomach flu or something. Now what the syndrome is that for some strange reason, like the fever triggers this sensation that you're shrinking. And I've had, I guess, let me see if I'm calling it by its right name. I'm calling it Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Yep. Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Yeah, like whenever I'd have these like bouts of fever when I was a kid, I would always get the sensation that I was like shrinking. Like when I was laying in bed, like I felt like I was like getting smaller, or the room was just like expanding. And it would just freak me the fuck out because it's just like an odd sensation. I was new to it, so instead of like making a fuss about it, like I just got back out of bed and went into the living room, turned on the TV and watched TV while my mom was painting pottery, just to like not be in this like ever expanding dark room. So like I just tried to distract myself with the television, but I still felt that sensation just sitting there and on the chair, on the easy chair, and like kind of like feeling the chair just kind of like warp and expand around me. It was so off-putting. But the second time I had it, like I just like sat through it and just like tried to brave it out. Like even though it like made me feel spooky and creepy, like I just tried to, I guess you could say, enjoy the sensation for what it was, if you could call it enjoyment. I guess like just lay there and experience it, because I knew in my head that like the room wasn't really expanding and I wasn't really shrinking, but I felt I was shrinking. Like the feeling and the perception like wasn't real. So I just sat through it. I just laid there in bed and like I drifted off into this dream with this Alice in Wonderland syndrome, like the sensation of it. I drifted off into this dream and like felt like I had the like I felt like I was Ant-Man before I even knew what Ant-Man was, because like I didn't really know that superhero. But in the dream, I was like a quarter of an inch tall, but I was able to like lift like this chain link that was like freaking hundreds of times bigger than I was. But I grabbed it by its corner and I lifted it up and I felt like, oh, hey, cool. Like I'm strong like an ant. And that's sort of what I remember from that weird fever dream. Oh yeah. I picked up the chain link and I put it down into a hole to allow like the rest of the chain to feed into this hole. And that's pretty much all I remember. Anyway.
Fever. I was hallucinating that I was in a big tunnel that looked like some kind of giant worm had made it, and I was just falling. It wasn't vertical, just a steep slope. I was tumbling down it, bouncing off the ridges on the floor. My parents heard me screaming and came to get me. I guess my fever was so high they wanted to take me to the hospital. They started carrying me down the stairs. I remember being scared to open my eyes in case they would look wrong somehow. But with my eyes closed, all I could see was that tunnel, and there were things at the bottom. My parents' voices sounded like they were screaming at me, even though they were saying nice things like "you'll be okay," etc. Their voices were really deep too. Scary experience for me. Not as bad as yours though, thank goodness.
I had sleep paralysis once. It was the scariest experience of my entire life. I was around 12 or
Fuck,
13
sleep
and was having
paralysis,
this surreal
dude.
dream where I was just floating in absolute darkness. Then from out of nowhere these hands about 3 or 4 times the size of a normal hand, started grabbing at me. I remember that they were gray like the color of a dead body and really rough looking like the hands of a carpenter, potter, or machinist. They weren't grabbing at me violently, just sort of running their thick fingers across my chest with all their weight but no force. Eventually there were about 15 of these hands, gently and slowly pulling me into the darkness. Even though they didn't feel malevolent, I was sure that I was being pulled, I dunno, like out of existence, if that makes any sense. The terrifying feeling in the dream wasn't that I was dying, but that I was somehow ceasing to exist. I often lucid dream, so at some point I became conscious that this wasn't reality, but that didn't get me out of the dream. I could now feel my bed underneath me and my eyes were open in the physical world. I could feel them opening, I swear to God, but all I could see was blackness. I couldn't move either, but I could feel my sheets, blanket, and the sweat on my body. I could also feel those giant hands, still running their massive fingers across my chest and pulling me down against my bed. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, but no sound would come out. This went on for about 30 seconds, a long time, before my eyes finally opened and I could move my limbs. I swear to God, even awake I could feel those damn hands still grabbing at me. I started screaming at the top of my lungs and crawled my way out of bed as those strangely gentle fingers tried to wrap themselves around my legs. Only when I hit the floor did it finally stop.
When I was very little, my great-grandfather Charlie died. I loved him so much
Oh
then.
no, not Charlie.
He was the most brotastic guy ever.
Brotastic.
He had horrible cancer, but he shrugged off the pain every day just to roll around and play blocks and eat jello and watch TV with me. About 6 years later, I'm going to my grandmother's house on weekends because times are tough to save food. I would always sleep in the room where he died, a different bed but the same room. There was a painting of Charlie on the wall, smallish. He was dignified, not the way he was how I remembered, with a bald mottled head and tubes in his face, but strong and smiling. Whenever I had trouble sleeping, I would look up into his warm, upside-down smiling face and instantly feel better. After going there for a year, evil shit started happening. I would see shit moving out in the field next to the house at night. Sometimes it would be really bad and figures would be really close and I would hear voices, but I would look at the painting and sort of try and talk. I would sort of try and talk to him and give a little prayer and it would get better. One night when I was 14, it was so bad I heard scraping on the windows and heard movement in the house that was bothering the dogs. I think it bothered my grandfather too, but he would never admit it. I fell asleep finally that night to horrible nightmares with people covered in blood and they looked angry, like they were blaming me. I woke at 3 with the weird shit still going on and I felt something in the room. God, I was so scared. I cried and writhed around and it felt like it was passing inside of me, burning with rage, trying to destroy me. My grandfather came in to check on me. I said I was okay, just had a stomach ache. I looked up at that painting and I hoped it would pass. I ended up falling asleep to the nightmares again, but they broke up and it went to memories of Charlie. I saw him walking with Jesus, looking healthy like he said he hoped he would be after he died.
Jesus.
I'm pretty sure the Jesus thing was a dream based on what he told me so long ago, but it sure is pleasant to think about. I hung the picture close to me from then on when I slept and it felt like he was there. The weird shit would go away if I hoped and talked to him. Eventually it stopped. Later I told my grandmother as subtly as I could about this mess and she told me that on his deathbed he said that I was a good kid and that he always wanted to be my guardian angel. Gives me shivers to this day. I have that painting here now.
I have a few I could share. Grew up in a small town in Montana, settled right next to an old coal mine where some kind of mishap occurred, some bodies never recovered. A lot of abandoned buildings and shit. Not related, just laying some background. It was late in the school year and I had to finish this huge paper for an English class. I had 3 of the 15 pages to go, met some friends for some shakes at this place my friend's mom owns. They left and I decided to go for a drive to clear my head, just recently got my license. I took some back roads, a long dirt road settled in the middle of pasture and farmland. It just started to rain lightly and I was enjoying my time alone because nobody ever drove, no traffic, nothing. Then up ahead was this white Geo Metro, fading pink splash stripes that were popular in the early 90s. I passed by it slowly in case somebody was having car trouble. There was nobody in the front seats. I started to drive off when I saw a little girl, 6 or 7, laying in the back seat with her head against the window. Not a parent or other person in sight, just wrapped up in some faded Little Mermaid blanket. I couldn't reason in my head what the hell she was doing out there, or what anybody would be doing out there. You certainly don't load up a Geo with lumber to go replace fence posts or lay some hay. I drove off, a little leery about the subtle absurdity of the entire situation. The sun started to go down and I made a very cautious multi-point turn to avoid dipping my parents' Pontiac into the ditches to each side. On my way back, the car was still there. Little girl wasn't inside anymore. I stopped to look inside. She left her blanket. I pieced together that they ran out of gas, parent left her there to get gas from a nearby ranch, and come back, and forgot about it for a few years. I moved to Colorado after high school. After about a year down there I got a call my friend's mom had died. I took a Greyhound up to Montana, saw him, went to the funeral, gave him a ride back to his place. His parents divorced a long time ago and his dad was being a douche about the whole situation, so he was in no mood to go home. So we took a drive. Without meaning to, I ended up back on that same stretch of road. The Geo was rolled into the ditch, white, pink stripes, same car. I had to pull over and my friend thought I was nuts by how much I was ranting with various holy shits. It would still make sense, but something about it just bothers me that they didn't go back to get the car. It still worries me that the little girl wandered off into the countryside and died.
When I was younger, me and my pals were adventurers. We would explore anything and everything. One time we were in these woods behind an elementary school, where many teens fought and drank. Well, it was the afternoon so there was no one there. We decided to go deep in the woods. We came upon an opening with bars that looked very forcefully spread apart. Being kids, naturally we were gonna explore it. We walked in and about 15 feet in we saw a message carved in the concrete wall that said "Do not gather here." It kind of creeped us out, but we adventured on. About 100 yards more and we came to a 3-foot gap which we had to either hop over or turn back. My friends decided to make the leap of faith. I was the fat one so I stayed back. They said that they would be back in a little bit. After I lost track of their flashlight, I got scared and started to cry. Then, I heard a low, raspy voice come out of the pit that said "Don't be frightened." Followed by a cackle. My body
Love side ears, top ears, or side ears? Okay.
locked up and I couldn't move or talk. I sat there speechless for 10 minutes until my friends came back. They saw my eyes filled with tears and made fun of me for being a baby, assuming that it was all from being left alone. I have never told anybody about that experience. I have nightmares about it to this day. Sometimes I question whether it really happened or not. I don't even know anymore.
Once, probably 15 years ago, I was at home alone. We had a big standard poodle at the time that was a pretty nice guard dog, so my parents didn't really worry about leaving me alone if mom had to run to the store or something. My house is really old. It's that kind of house that stepping on a board on one end of the house will make other boards creak on another floor on the other side of the house. I heard footsteps downstairs. By that point in my life I could pretty easily discern the difference in my parents' walk by listening to the boards creak and the dog moving. I realized it was none of those things walking downstairs. I guess I was too young to be worried and walked downstairs to see who it was. By the time I got to my doorway the footsteps had stopped. I walked downstairs and witnessed what I guess was an extremely hunched back old woman walk into a little used room. The dog was lying on the carpet in the hallway, completely unperturbed by an old woman walking right past her. She freaks out if she sees a new person. I called out to the woman, and, hearing no response, walked into the room. Nobody there. She basically disappeared. I swear this happened and I've never really mentioned it to anyone until now. Shit, I'd forgotten about it until recently.
I've got a few. When I was very young, say 5 or 6, I would stay over at my grandmother's apartment. She had this big bed in the guest room, which is where I slept, that had a huge headboard. It was big and had things carved at the top. At night I'd always see the things on it start moving. There was also an air vent in the room and I started seeing this horrible old woman staring out of it at me. I'd always freak out and run to my grandmother's room. Eventually I started sleeping on the couch because it scared me so much. Also, this vent was so tiny that you couldn't fit a cat in it, let alone a person. About 3 years ago, my grandmother moved into a downstairs apartment because the stairs were too much. The lady that moved in after her had a 3-year-old son. He saw the exact same thing that I had seen when I was a child. When I was about 8 or 9, we moved into a new house. From my bed you could see the living room and the arch leading to the kitchen. I was laying on my bed one night with the door open. I learned not to do that pretty soon. I rolled over towards the door and saw a figure in the archway. It was very smoky looking and was floating a few feet off the ground. It had these awful red eyes, but for some reason, I convinced myself that it was smoke from a fire. I dropped to the floor and crawled to my parents' room to tell them. My dad went to check and he walked right through the thing, but didn't notice it. He came back and told me nothing was there and that it was probably a bad dream or something and told me to sleep in my sister's room. I could still see the thing looking at me, so I slept in my sister's room. When I laid in there, I could see a figure in the closet. A few years later, my sister and I swapped rooms for some reason. My mom made us do this every few years. Anyways, one night I was on the phone with a friend and I heard scratching from my closet. This was weird, because both of my cats were in the front of the house on the sofa. So, I held the phone up to the door to ask my friend if she heard it. She said she did, so I told her I was going to open it. She freaked out and told me not to, but I did anyways. When I opened it, there was a humanoid cat-like figure that hissed at me and disappeared. I freaked out and slammed the door. When I looked later, there were claw marks on the door. At a New Year's party one year with some friends, we decided to play with a Ouija board. We were talking about something. I can't remember its name, but I remember it was male. Anyways, we had a little electric cotton candy maker and it suddenly started going, and it was going way too fast for normal. So, we tried to turn it off, but it wasn't on. So we unplugged it and it got faster. Then the lights flickered and something began to scrap the window. There were no trees around the house. So, while we're all freaking out, I feel something grab me and launch me across the room. I came to and my friends were freaking out because the door wouldn't open. Eventually it did and we ran into the hall. Later on, the rest of the people in the house said they hadn't heard anything. I was at a friend's house once and we were looking in the mirror. We saw a man in black behind us. We turned and nothing was there, but when we looked back at the mirror, he had gotten closer. We ran the hell out of there. Recently, as in the past few months, I've been seeing this old hag. Like, remember how you thought a witch looked when you were a kid? A woman like that. Anyways, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'll be driving or sitting in class or something and suddenly I'm hit with this image of her screaming and coming at me. It scares the hell out of me and I have no idea what it is.
I have a couple. When I was about 5 or 6, I remember laying on the top layer of my bunk bed looking down out my window. I saw a light right outside my window and the head of a 4 or 5 foot being standing looking at me. Suddenly there was a really bright light, as if it took a picture with the flash on. I was frightened and rolled over and hid under the covers. I worked up the courage to take another look about 4 minutes later and nothing was there. I also remember being sick and laying in my parents' bed staring at the ceiling. After a while the ceiling would begin to look as if it was a puzzle that was put together. When I took my focus of the ceiling, the rest of the room seemed as if it was a puzzle too. I couldn't get rid of this puzzle without going to sleep. The last one was when I was about 9 years old. I was sleeping over at my friend's house with a couple of friends. Everyone slept in the living room. I slept on the floor and my friend slept half on the couch, half on the foot piece of the couch. I could never get to sleep easy in places other than my house, so I was usually up most of the night. I was staring up at my friend who was sleeping. He suddenly got up on his knees on the foot piece, looked in with his hands up and fingers clenched, and let out a loud, demon-like scream for about 15 seconds, then went back into the sleeping position he was just in and continued sleeping like nothing happened. Nobody woke up, and when I asked them in the morning, nobody said they heard it, and my friend who let out the scream said he had no idea.
When I was little, my parents bought me a bucket of army men. In the bucket were a few different pieces like machine gun guy, radio guy, and waving arm guy. But there was also a bazooka guy, but there was a broken one in the box. One of his arms was off, but he was still holding the bazooka with his other hand. I threw it away because it was broken, but he repeatedly showed up all over the place. In the shower, in my sock drawer, in my pockets, in the closet. Bazooka guy. I got so scared of him that I burned him, then blew up the melted goop with a firecracker. I bought my son a bucket of toy soldiers yesterday, and in the bucket, the very bottom, the last one he took out, one-armed bazooka guy.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
What's up, some user?
This is something that happened long ago and I didn't think much of it, but I guess I'm in a spooky mood and got a feeling of dread when I remembered it. Be me. 7 yo, can't remember exactly age. Parents were renovating house, so we went to a carpenter they know to discuss new furniture. Don't remember how, but I met this girl my age outside and she convinced me to go to the dance with her. Sure.png. We start walking together and we get to the train rails, start walking across the rails. After a while we're out of town and I only see fields. Like the retard I am, I finally realize something is off. Where are we going? To the dance, of course. I tell her I changed my mind and promptly returned back. But being young, I got lost in town. Thankfully I went to a shop and said, "Can you take me back to mom and these people have me an orange juice?" and somehow found my parents. The memory is vague, but I vividly remember the sight of the fields along the empty train rails. I wonder where the hell that girl was going. Childhood memories can be quite scary. Be me, 18, at the grandparents' cabin in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, staying alone until family arrives on the afternoon of the next day, middle of winter, blizzard outside, several feet of snow, minus 30 degrees Celsius. Oh yeah, I'm a fucking leaf by the way. Balls freezing off.png. At night a huge blizzard blows in. Outside is so dark it looks like a void. Thought of nothing but empty frozen forest for miles outside that window unsettles me. Close the blinds. Blinds are poorly fitted to the window. No matter where I'll pull them there's always a small gap. Oh well. Sit on the sofa by the window reading and trying to forget about how isolated I am and how unsettling the gap between the curtains is. Fall asleep on the sofa. Book in hand. Wake up in the morning. Dim light pouring in through the window. Been blizzarding on and off all night. Open blinds again. More comfortable since it's day. Can see footprints in the
I'm working on a requested piece and taking in donations because from a charge that blindsided me this morning, I am $340 in the hole, just about. So I'm taking in donations and seeing if I can fill in that hole, as I'm also in the process of trying to dispute this charge. But by the time it gets resolved, I have important bills that are coming out starting tomorrow, so I gotta figure this shit out. Oh, 305 in the hole now. Yeah, that's right. I was 340 this morning, but now I'm 305.
front yard.
So I'm taking in donations doing doodle comms, but like any amount helps. Like if you just want to drop in like a dollar, $5, that's cool. Like any little bit like inches me toward that goal is a good amount.
Fuckles this shit.png. Go outside expected to see their moose or deer, human tracks. Bare feet, no shoes. Tracks started to fill from snow and probably happened sometime in the night. Tracks lead right up to my window, at the gap in the blinds looking in. Tracks don't lead away from the house, the other end of the tracks start in the middle of the fucking field like this guy appeared out of nowhere mid-stride. To this day I don't know how those tracks got there, but the nearest neighbor is nearly 2 kilometers down the road. It was -30 out with a few feet of snow. Anyone going around barefoot would start losing toes after just a few minutes of being out there. I don't go to that cabin alone anymore.
Have friends over, tell them to sleep over. They tell me that they can summon a demon named Notsabad. Teresa ritual shippy.png. Step 1, perform ritual on a rainy night. Step 2, hot tea with milk and sugar placed on a counter under a mat with 3 Pokemon cards and a paperclip. Step 3, draw a picture of the demon in your image and place it on the wall near the ritual mat. Step 4, make sure the mat is in the light of a window. Step 5, sleep near the mat with gray sleep mask on. We perform the steps and go to sleep. Wake up, friends are dead. My tea's gone cold and wondering why I got out of bed at all. The morning rain clouds up my window, and I can't see it all. Even if I could, it would all be gray. But your picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
My grandmother passed away yesterday. I don't exactly miss her. She was the kind of woman who thought kids should be seen and not heard, ever. When I was really young I didn't understand.
Lame. It's like, I've never heard of a demon called Not So Bad. But it was a lead up to a fucking joke.
It would all be gray. But your picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
My grandmother passed away yesterday. I don't exactly miss her. She was the kind of woman who thought kids should be seen and not heard, ever. When I was really young I didn't understand.
Oh, the old charge? Yeah, it's from my old ISP. I used to go through HughesNet, like their SatNet service. But after I got Starlink, I went ahead and canceled it. So HughesNet tells me, like, okay, just send us the equipment back. And we won't charge you $300+ for the equipment fee or whatever. It's like, you can send us the equipment back or you can keep it, but we'll charge you $300+. It's like, okay, I'll send the equipment back. It's like, good deal. Like, so like HughesNet was supposed to send me a box to send the equipment back. And so I waited for that box, and in my waiting, completely spaced it up until today. Once I got that charge and saw who it was from, I was like, fucking hell. So I called them up, told them what was going on, and told them the deal. You know, like, you're supposed to send me the box. I never got it. And so there was a fuck up on both of our parts. I guess after 10 days of not receiving it, I was supposed to call them, and from them on their side, it's like they lost the fucking box. So we're working things out right now. They're sending me another box, and I have to pack all the shit up and drive it down to a UPS station. Like, the closest one is like 2 hours away. So, yeah. And once I get it to the UPS station, I'll take the tracking number, call HughesNet again, give them that tracking number, and they'll reimburse me. But until then, you know, it's going to take 3 days for that box to get here. I have important bills that are coming out, like starting tomorrow. So I need to level out this fucking hole that they dug for me, which they will fill back in. But in the meantime, I need to make sure I have that money before these bills start coming out. So hence the humble DONO streams. So any amount would be very much appreciated until all this fucking shit gets resolved. Anyway, back to it.
Why we ever visited her. She didn't have anything for me to play with, but she had this huge collections of porcelain dolls. I wanted to play with them, but she screamed at me and slapped me. I never tried again after that. She's dead now. It's weird to think about. We're spending the night in her house for some reason, me and mom and dad, and my aunt and cousins. Her doll collection is still here, still sitting in that room looking at it now. I can't figure out why I wanted to play with them back then. Their eyes are wide and creepy, and not one of them is smiling. They're really freaky looking. The funeral is in a few hours, then there's the reading of the will tomorrow. I want to get out of here as fast as I can. There's no door on the room with the dolls and I have to sleep in the room right across from it. I don't know how well I'll be sleeping tonight. The funeral was short and there weren't a lot of people there. She didn't get along well with people. Apparently she was buried with one of her dolls, one that looked an awful lot like her. Same thin wispy hair, same color eyes, same upturned nose. There weren't a lot of tears shed. I know I didn't cry.
Yeah, the porcelain dolls are weird, especially some of their collectors, because some of these people who have a lot of porcelain dolls, they make their own porcelain dolls. I had a teacher, like, this is way back in elementary school. She had like some of her porcelain dolls on display around the classroom, but like out of reach where we couldn't like touch them. But we were all strictly told that they were hands off. But you know, like I always, like, beginning that class, I just assumed that she bought them. But I guess no, she makes them. So I think some of these porcelain doll collectors, it's like they make their own dolls, because she went through she explained that, like, in dealing with some of her stress, she'll make a porcelain doll and like sand the head until it's like to the proper consistency, whatever, and like I guess the forceful sanding process like helps her deal with stress, and then afterwards, like, painting of the doll is just something that helps alleviate more stress. But yeah, so this grandmother this person's talking about, like, I'm wondering if she's like one of those weird ladies who crafts porcelain dolls. I call them weird ladies because, like, fucking, I don't know, like, porcelain dolls are just kind of like spooky. Some user says, I'd send you money, but I don't want to connect my card IRL identity to any internet services. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, sure up some money. We'll get some more people somewhere. I don't know. As long as people keep viewing, maybe I'll get some donations. We'll see.
Now we're just sitting around her house awkwardly trying to talk about other things like what's going to happen to her house and her stuff. They're saying it's weird that she had a burial so soon after dying. It usually takes a little longer to get everything set up and none of the family had to pay for it, which saved them a lot of arguments. I'm really bored here. I wish I'd brought my Game Boy. The sky got dark really fast. It's somehow 10:15 and I have no idea when that happened. I don't exactly want to go to sleep in this house. I discovered that I can't close my door all the way. Something's wrong with the hinges and it only closes about 3/4 of the way. This is going to be a long night. I wish they'd stop looking at me. Why won't they stop staring at me? Their little grins are so eerie, like they know some kind of secret that I don't. Wait. Grins. They never had smiles before. I sit up in my bed and grip a pillow, staring at them. Definitely not going to sleep tonight. Oh God. That one's missing an eye. How? Grandma always took good care of them. They're breaking. Falling apart. As I watch them, I want to scream but my throat won't cooperate, and my legs won't move so I can run. Their grins are so wide now. Wider than their heads can hold. And the teeth. The teeth that grow in them. That one's moving. No, stay in there like a good doll. Don't come out of that room. Don't come through that doorway. They stopped at the door to their room. I think I understand. She never allowed them to come out of the room. They can't leave without her say so. And she's dead. Ha. Suck on that, you little bastards. I pick up a small knick-knack from the bedside table and walk over to the doorway, grinning. I toss up ones, catch it, and hurl it at the closest doll, catching it square in the nose. I bounces off of the doll and rolls into the hall, and the doll looks up at me, its grin fading fast. I smirk at it, flip it off. and go back to the bed. Fuck them. I'm going to sleep. I woke up this morning to a scream of pain. I threw myself out of bed and grabbed my shoe as a weapon, however useless it may be, and flung open the door to see my mother grabbing her foot and leaning against the wall. She's bleeding. I start to ask what caused it, but then I see the knick-knack he threw last night, a teddy bear on a carousel horse, broken and lying under where her foot must have come down. I glance into the doll's room and almost yelp. All of the dolls are normal again, except for one. It's looking dead at me with a small grin. It's the one I hit in the face last night. My mom demands to know if I was the one who put the thing in the hall. I apologize and she yells at me for a bit. After breakfast, we start getting our things together to leave. After the reading of the will, we're going to head back home, and I have never been more relieved. The lawyer seems anxious. He doesn't want to read the will, I can tell, but he has to. He tells us that my grandmother left most of her money to various charities, but each of her kids gets a pretty helly chunk too. My parents are happy about it and I'm hoping maybe they'll finally gel me a car. The lawyer clears his throat awkwardly as we stand to leave and we sit back down. There's one more thing left, he says. For wait. He says it's for me. I leave you my doll collection. I give my permission for them to leave the room. You must learn how to care for them, for if you do, they will care for you. You don't, they will not, either. I hear giggling in the back of my mind. Hey, I actually have one to tell that I just remembered. Someday when I'm 12 years old or so, my mom sits me down to talk with me after work. Really strange. She never does this and it was out of the blue. Tells me she has a story about when she was a kid and it's going to sound a bit weird, but she has to tell someone. She told her dad, but he's since passed away and someone else has to know. Anyway, story goes my mom was about my age when she moved into a house with her dad. They were always moving every few years, never staying in one place for too long. This house is older in an old part of town, but is pretty nice. Mom gets the feeling she's being watched but doesn't tell her dad about it, has many nightmares and has to sleep in bed with her dad a lot but tries to be brave. Dad doesn't get a lot of sleep either. Mom spends a lot of time home alone because her dad was always busy at work, so she would take the day to explore the house and neighborhood and then barricade herself in her father's room at night, waiting for him to come home at midnight or later. During her daytime exploration she becomes obsessed with finding secret passageways as she'd read about them in books and had a dream about one. Behind the fireplace in the living room she finds a panel that's loose, and she pulls it off, revealing a door. She opens it and it opens outward. She steps in. Now this is a part that really hurt her to tell me about. Behind the fireplace it was warm and kind of dark, and there were a few dark alcoves. She's on her hands and knees and looks into one of them, and leaned up against the side is a corpse with blood on it. She screams and hits her head on the low ceiling and frantically tries to escape, but the door she came in is blocked by something on the outside.
She bangs against the door but it hardly budges. She's screaming, crying, hyperventilating. My mom is in tears telling this story and she never crawls. I'm shaken up. She turns around and she sees the outline of the corpse in the dark, still sitting there propped up against the wall. Mom can't escape and is certain she's going to die. Starts hitting her elbows against the wall and even smashes her head against the door. She's absolutely losing it. She is trapped here for hours as the sun goes down and all remaining light disappears. Somewhere in there is the corpse. Outside she hears the back door unlock and her dad walk inside. She starts screaming and pounding on the door and her dad rushes over to the fireplace. A heavy scraping sound and she shoves the door open.
Oh shit. Ugh. It's like waves of sleepiness are fucking like crashing over me right now. Trying to rub the sleeping sand from my eyes. I stayed up late watching freaking Better Call Saul. Such a good fucking show. And I plan to rewatch it all again once it becomes available on Netflix. And I'd be watching more today as working on some commission. But this fucking HughesNet bullshit just fucking came out of left field. Maybe I should have a rolled cigarette. I'm getting sleepy all of a sudden. I don't know why. Fucking crazy, man. Okay, let's continue listening as I
And
roll
he
my
pulls
cig.
her out. He's absolutely stunned. Mom crying as she points into the hidden room and describes the body.
Melody's asking, you okay there, nerd? You need stronger caffeine? Probably. Being so short on money, I've been like fairly sparse with my Rockstar purchases. I am out of Rockstar. Actually, like the last energy drink I got was a Rain, and that was the Rainbow Sherbet. So fucking good. But yeah, I'm out of Dust energy drinks. I am just drinking regular coffee right now. Coffee on the reg. I'm drinking the regular coffee. Oh yeah, I guzzled some water earlier today too. So, speaking of coffee, like I remember as a kid, adults like fucking complaining about coffee withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal. And when I was a kid, like I'd have a few cups from every now and then, you know, and I usually had like a regular intake of caffeine via soda. And I didn't understand what like these grown-ups were groaning about. Like, why are they complaining? Like, it's only coffee. And here, as an adult, I'm drinking like coffee like on a daily basis. But then I'll forget to drink coffee and just sort of be fine throughout it. But then develop this headache.
Hell yeah, making the money.
Oh shit! Thank you, yo. Who was that? Oh, thank you, love. Darling Love Puff. But yeah, like sometimes I'll forget and I'll develop this fucking crazy headache, and the headache feels akin to like a fucking hangover where you're just like fucking dehydrated. So I'll just guzzle down some water, but still feel like fucking crap. But then it'll hit me as like, oh shit, I haven't had my coffee yet. So like I'll brew me up a batch of coffee, drink it, and slowly but surely that headache will just dissipate. Check it. Check the amount. Let us check. Love. Yeah, caffeine withdrawals blow. Now I know what all those adults from my youth were just fucking complaining about. But man, thank you, love. You're too good to me. Big shout out and props to my lovely moderator Melody for duping me the money that I've needed for this donation stream. I was planning on just like streaming all day, like share up this money, but fucking awesome, love. So Melody has just donated $3.50. She she kicks all the ass. Fucking amazing. Why do I need a calculator for this? So now I am 45. I'm back in the green at 45. Yay! Sweet! Awesome. Oop, I fucking put all of that in the wrong layer. Whoops. So goal achieved. Now I even have enough for the bills that are coming out tomorrow. So let's keep this donation stream going. Because now all I have to worry about is the gas money to get to this fucking UPS place. So yeah, like all this, like I'm pretty sure I can like ask my family for money to like help me out with this. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep this donation stream going. But we have reached our mark, so thank you. All thanks go to Melody, because she kicks so much fucking ass. I can't believe it. God damn it, love. You're so fucking awesome to me. Like do I deserve it? Do I deserve like an awesome fucking person like you in my life? Love? I hope I hope I'm worth it. But let's keep going. Let's see if I can earn or make that gas money, so I don't have to burden family too much. However, my sister does owe me like owe me some money, so she's gonna pay me back today or tomorrow. Because she's supposed to be helping out with some Starlink payments, but she's been spacing on that a bit, so she's gonna pay me what's owed either today or tomorrow, and that should be enough to cover gas. So I think I'm fairly in the clear, but just in case, I'll keep the donation stream going in case anyone else wants to donate. That'd be fucking cool. But yeah, I can stop worrying now. Thank you, love. But let's keep the stream going. Get this doodle.com done, and then we can jump back on your com during the stream. And if anyone else wants to donate, they're free to do so. So yeah, awesome. Big weight off my chest. Big weight. Thank you, love. All right. I love you. I appreciate you. You're the fucking bee's knees, the cat's pajamas, all that fucking cool stuff. Giving you all the fist bumps. Here, I'll Discord you some fist bumps. With some hugs and kisses.
To her dad and how she was trapped there. She looks over and sees that somehow someone had dragged the safe her dad had in front of the door while she was in without her hearing her dad.
Holy cow, this freaking text-to-speech audio needs to fucking take a breath. Learn to use some commas. But yes, Melody is most valuable MVP.
Mom can't escape and is certain she's going to die. Starts hitting her elbows against the wall and even smashes her head against the door. She's absolutely losing it. She is trapped here for hours as the sun goes down and all remaining light disappears. Somewhere in there is the corpse. Outside she hears the back door unlock and her dad walk inside. She starts screaming and pounding on the door and her dad rushes over to the fireplace. A heavy scraping sound and she shoves the door open and he pulls her out. He's absolutely stunned. Mom crying as she points into the hidden room and describes the body to her dad and how she was trapped there. She looks over and sees that somehow someone had dragged the safe her dad had in front of the door while she was in without her hearing her dad hugs her tight and grabs a flashlight and crawls into the opening. He shines it around and explores the whole thing. There's no body and he explains that to my mom. She tells him that it was there and he believes her. He tells her he saw something strange once. Somehow the corpse had disappeared. He assures her that he will sell the house soon and then they will move out in a week. He closes the door and puts the panel back on, nails the door shut, and moves the sail in front of Eel. That night the two of them don't sleep. Grandpa arranges to pick up my mom and bring him to work, but one of his asshole managers won't let him bring her on the days he's super.
Daskodro says, I need a sugar mama. Don't we all? I was lucky enough to find someone as amazing as Melody. And the way I did it was like fucking being a complete asshole prick to some SJW who is in my freaking comment thread on my DeviantArt. Fucking bitch ass whiny turd motherfucker. Some user says, by the way, I remember you talking about the government not having enough resources to keep on monitoring you. Have they let you go yet? Not yet. Because I still owe the monitoring system like a few months in back pay, so I think they're gonna keep that going until I'm all caught up. Then they'll fucking nix the service. But I'm cool with it, you know, like just like a few more months. I can't remember how many. I'll have to add that up later, but right now, I'm just gonna deal with it.
Supervising, which is 3 a week after school. One day my mom spends the entire time locked in her dad's room doing homework. She hears a sound of a pop and something unlatches behind her. A panel on the wall next to her father's head had swung open IKEA door and created betong. It hit the wall. Mom is scared. We curious grabs flashlight and are over the bed to peer into the socket. This doorway is almost as tall and wide as her dad but leads into a short, narrow hallway with some suscept stars ALS and she is too scared to explore, so she is about to reach for the panel and close it when a pounding on her Athers core starts. The door starts shaking as if it's about to give way. She runs into the opening and slams the hidden door shut behind her. Trapped in darkness save for her flashlight beam hears a crack and the bedroom door breaks open. Heavy slow footsteps in the room that pace around the bed and back again. Before setting next to the hidden door, Mom Ellie slowly back up. T is at the end of the...
Yeah, I'll find out the back pay. I think I'm down to like $100 or so. I'll have to double check, but we'll have to see. But I'll bring that up during my next like court update, which will be, I'm just gonna say like 4 months from now. I still have to go back every 6 months or so, and maybe by then they'll have an update for me with the whole like the re-entry court and the Las Vegas court are butting heads on like fucking some of the issues in my case, because some of it is like fucking bullshit. Like I've gone over before, and yeah, it's like their re-entry court is trying to get my sentence reduced, and then like the Las Vegas court is trying to deny that. So they're trying to see like what they can do to resolve the issue. Anyway, that aside, like fucking deal with some of these payments until it's all caught up, and then be done with it. But yeah, as far as like fucking the whole sugar mama thing, like I hate being a burden to Melody. Like I feel like I'm I feel like a drain on her account, which is why I didn't want to like come at her with like these money woes and these money issues, but I want to make her aware of it. But I want to do like this donation stream to see if I can garner some donations. From random people. Because I get donations before, you know. But I guess I'm not as relevant as I used to be because I'm not streaming as much on YouTube. Because on Picardo I have way more freedom. But the problem with that is that people have to, I guess they have to make an account in order to like interact and chat and stuff. They can watch the stream, is what I'm told, but in order to participate in chat they have to like make an account, or I guess to follow me they have to make an account. But Picardo offers like more liberties in what I get to stream, like if I want to listen to music or watch a movie or a TV show, I can do so. So I've been streaming more there than I have on YouTube. But YouTube is where I have more subscribers and followers, more opportunity for donations. So this is what the donation stream was for. I wasn't expecting Melody to just like fucking drop that whole amount. Melody says, I tend to give a couple of grand in reserve as a squish fund. Oh, yes. Like Melody, like Melody like tends to like fix my like some of like my money woes. This is like the first one, like the first hard hitting money issue that's like hit me in a long while. But I wanted to see if I could generate some donations so I wouldn't have to burden Melody. But here comes Melody in the pinch, just like boom, drops it right in my lap. Sweet. But I want to see if I can like garner some more money. Like I'm pretty sure like my sister like giving me some of the money owed for like what she had promised to pay in helping me out with the Starlink payments. I'm pretty sure that money will help in the gas money I need to complete this reimbursement for the fucking 300 plus amount that had been taken from my account this morning. But for right now, like I may as well like see if I can generate some random donations in any amount to just ease some of that. So he says, you looked into those D&D character portrait commissions? I've been told by my artist friends that pays a lot. D&D portraits. Like I remember, I think I remember you vaguely talking about that. Where would I go to look that up? Is that like what on like Fiverr or DeviantArt, or I don't know where to look for those. Yeah, Mel has been helping me out with some big money woes. Yeah, I think the last one she helped me out with was the Starlink, just trying to get that going. And once I got it, like, oh my god, like Starlink has been like, sure, there have been like service outages every now and then, but those are few and far in between. But with HughesNet, there were service outages like every few days, but thankfully those took place more or less like right when I was intending to go to bed. Like I guess there's like a service outage or something where they'll shut down service for about an hour or so. But sometimes it takes like an hour to 3 hours. And that happened regularly. And fucking HughesNet was so fucking slow, and like the fucking data cap, like, oh my god, it was ridiculous. I was paying like $100 for like 30 gigabytes of data, which would fucking get drained within about a week, because like the whole family would use it and just like fucking stream content at like high quality and whatever. So then I had to like tell them like, hey, look, I need the internet for work. This is what I do for it. So I need to have everyone either log off from the router when they're not using it. And if you're gonna stream content, like make sure it's locked at 420p. But I don't have to worry about that anymore. Because like with Starlink, I pay like about the same amount, just like maybe $10 more, and no data caps. Like fucking hell, this is like fucking Starlink has been freaking kick ass. Somebody just says, I think it's mostly Discord servers. Oh, but yeah, a guy I know financed his education through those. Huh, show some user my DUki piece. Oh, okay, let me see, where is that piece? Ah, here it is. This is the one I got done for Melody recently. So what, like I find like these, what, D&D servers on Discord and offer up some services. Like, how much does your friend charge? I want to know. Like, is your friend does he produce quality that's better than this? And just curious, like how much I should gauge like a price guide. Because like if he was able to finance his education with stuff like this, like I imagine he's got to be charging more than I'm charging. Roughly equal. Sweet. Ugh. Melody says, no. Melody considers me top tier. Oh, I'm also working on this animation. I'm almost done with it. Well, I guess I'd have to say halfway done with it. Like when I can, I want to do like animated loops to see if that will also garner some donations my way. We'll see. But it's also like something fun to work on and like exercise my animation prowess because I haven't been animating all that much. I'm trying to get back into it. But anyway, all that aside, let's keep this donation stream going. To all those who are just joining us, like if you want to donate, feel free. It'd be fucking awesome. Any amount would be appreciated. $5, $1, 25 cents. You know, I don't know if you're allowed to donate like that low. I think the least amount you can donate is $1 through my coffee page. I don't remember. I think we tried to figure that out once. Anyway, back to the stories.
Brothers. This leads her to a crawlspace area above the second floor, and she follows one of the paths leading towards her room 589. She goes along. She notices ends an opening stone could be out of. Finally, she
Melody says the limit $385. Is that the, well, I guess that's the most limit. I was like thinking like the least amount you can donate is, I think, $1. You know, just an arbitrary amount. Oh, that's the amount you donated. Yeah, like, no, I'm talking about like the least available amount someone can donate if they want to is like probably $1, but the amount that was donated by Melody, I think she's like saying is $385. Yes, that is correct. Melody had donated $385 to soothe the money woes that I woke up with today. But I'm glad Melody's just fronted the money to help me out with that. It's really appreciated. Fucking big shout outs to her. She's awesome. I love her. She is magnifique. But keeping the donation stream going to see if I can get just a little bit of extra cash to help me out with the gas money needed in order to resolve this money issue. So yeah. How much did I make off commissions? Like, oh man, like fucking, I was making like, how much was I making? Like maybe in the ballpark of like around 300 a week, which doesn't sound like all that much, but it was enough to cover my bills and stuff. But I was like generating, like I was working on numerous commissions at a time, and I had the time to do so because I was like just by myself living in Vegas, nothing to do but draw all day, every day. Now that I'm living on the res, I have like familial obligations. Like I'm like a live-in caretaker for my mom. I have to take her to and from appointments. I have to help her and assist her with things that she's trying to do. Like I have to go over every now and then and like help cook, clean. I have to look after and tend to livestock, like the horses out here. I have to care for the family dogs. There's just like so many things on my plate that I have to do in a day. Speaking of which, I got to water the horses sometime today. But yeah, like before then, like just working by myself, like doing commissions and even like auctions back when that was still an option for me. I was generating a decent amount of money. And no, I think it was in the ballpark around like 500 a week, which really isn't that much, but it was enough to get me by, and I was happy. I was happy. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Granted, you ran like four accounts at once somehow. Yeah, I was a machine. I was a fucking machine. Yeah, it was intense, but I was happy. But now, like, fucking, I have all these other obligations, and it really saps my time and like creativity, because like when you're doing art, you have to get into this creative mode and then just like be in the zone. But then when I have to go run errands or tend to the horses or help my mom out with something, I have to pull myself out of that zone and just do these errands and obligations. And then when I get back, I'm just like so tired and worn out. It takes me a certain amount of time to like get back into that mindset. So it's like a whole lot of back and forth and constantly shifting of gears from like a creative mindset to like uh, uh errand and obligation duty mindset, and it gets frustrating at times. It's like just doing like a whole bunch of back and forth. I better watch my hand movements instead of like doing a whole bunch of back and forth. This is the sign language for hot dog eating contest, if anyone's wondering. Yeah, don't quote me on that. No, I'm just fucking around. Anyway, producing that much art at once, did you accept revisions and such? I was producing artwork at such like a quality and pace back then that no one really asked for revisions. But I was giving like artwork updates to clients, and clients were at like, I would ask the clients like, okay, here's the sketch. Like, are there any revisions you want made? Like, is there any adjustments? We're good. Okay, I'm gonna go move to the line art. Here's the line art. Are there any revisions that you want to see made? Like, is there anything that's out of out of um out of alignment with what you're wanting? Like, no, that's good. Okay, let's keep going. And then yeah, like it was like a constant like checking up with clients to see if like the commission they're looking for is on track. So in doing things that way, I didn't really have to like make like a price guide or tier for like revisions or anything, because I always made sure I was on point. Yeah. Anyway, back to the stories and back to the drawings.
Which is the area above her room and sun her bed in plain view. Someone was up here. They could have easily watched her without her seeing them. The house had ornata woodwork, and this peephole was hidden up there somewhere on the molding. She's paralyzed by the fear of it, and whatever is in her father's bedroom, she stays up there for some time. She said about an hour. Back door unilocks, and her father walks up the stairs to find his bedroom door broken. She panics, and shorts for my mom. She answers him but smalled, and she trawls back the way she came. Opens hidden door and steps out to her shocked father. Explains what happened. Lou him. He examines the passages and is deeply disturbed. That night he uses his job as they won't let him take the right of nowhere for them to stay until the house is sold, and there it is freezing cold and snowing out. They call the police to report the intrusion, but the police are busy with other things at the moment and promise to send an officer as soon as possible. Grandpa decides out of desperation to try spending the night at neighbors. The two of them dress up in Wham clothes and gather bags to spend the night by. There's a lule or two of snow out, and they walk to the neighbor's house. Grandpa knocks on the door but nobody answers, rings the doorbell and no response. Lisa's due the next Lausa. Dottie wears and Telex crosses the street to try again and tries the Darren houses. Both are parking and starting to freeze. They head back to spend the night in his car, but when they approach it, all the windows have been smashed. Certified and really leasing. They head back inside. Grandpa's door is busted, so they spend the night in Mom's room. Moves her dresser in front of the door, and the locales the peephole and stuffs it full of some cult. And the two, of course, Navarslan. They take turns.
I once had a guy that wanted like more changes, major changes every 15 minutes. Oh, man. Yeah, I've never had to deal with one like that. But I've been in like a similar situation, and it's like pretty stressful. Like I don't like it. But yeah, like that's some junk, man. Like every 15 minutes, like, oh, like making major changes to a commission. Like I think I was almost in a situation like that, whereas like I would get like a commission close to complete, but then like the guy wanted like a major shift in like the composition or whatever. And I'm like over here is like, well, if you want a change that big, you're just gonna have to get like a new commission. Like this commission's almost done. I'm not making a change that major, because like that's on par with like just fucking just get a new commission done. So I think what he was wanting to do is like, as long as the commission was almost complete and he could like enjoy it for what it was, he wanted to make changes to like have like a completely new image but under the same price. And then I'm thinking like once that was almost done, like he'd make another major change, like, oh, now can you change it to like whatever this is? And I'm thinking like, dude, you can't do that. Like fucking just get a brand new commission. I'm not making changes that major this fucking late into the game. Yeah, like in a way, I think he was trying to scam me, but I think once I cut him off at the whole like fucking, yeah, you're gonna have to get a new commission for that, because like this thing is almost done. If you wanted something like different, like the way you want it, you're telling me right now, you should have let me know way back at the sketching process, because up until now everything has been good, but right here at the very end you want like these huge changes. You're just gonna have to get a new commission, because I'm not going back to redraw this, because like under the same price, because we're just gonna have to complete this now, and the major changes you want are just gonna have to be a completely brand new commission. So no. So no to your little attempted scam. Of course I didn't tell him that, but I just laid it out for him like that. It's like, well, you're just gonna have to get a new one. You mean we've got burglars downstairs in the in the sketching room? The lounge, the sketching room, the drawing room. What do you call it? The lounge. Yes, the lounge. Anyway.
Reading a book waiting for the sun to rise. Until late in the night they hear something scraping against the floor downstairs. It's the safe being pushed along the floor. The two look at each other and Grandpa hugs her tightly. They both have hours in their eyes and Grandpa runs over to grab a knife he had by the table. Then they hear the creaking as the thing walks up the stairs and slowly towards Mom's room. Mom is shaking and silently sewing while her dad holds her tight. The thing starts skimming on the door. Absolutely wailing unit grabs Mom and over to the window and pull it open, and logs Halo sits not too big of a fall and there's 2 or 3 feet of snow built up there. Grabs my mom and the two of them look at the door as it shakes with each hit, holds her tight and jumps into a snow pile, landing on his feel very hard, curses in pain and looks on as a tall crash sard. A figure moves into view and stands by the window. It's the corpse my mother had seen but with new life in it, blood dripping down it, eyes appear to be missing. Just dark sockets, tilts its head to one side and looks down at them. Grandpa runs as fast as he can through the snow while carrying my mom, keeps going for blocks and blocks through the shallower snow in the road. Eventually he reaches downtown and runs into a 7-Eleven, begs the manager and he agrees to let them spend the night in the store. The two fall asleep on the floor in the back office. In the morning, Grandpa decides nobody can live in that evil house, returns to his home and torches it, burns down entirely save for the foundation, the fireplace, and the secret room behind the fireplace, all brick. He made it look like an accident and the inspectors buy it. Police are a bit suspicious because of the call to the police the night before and the broken glass on his car, but decide it's not worth their time. Not like he's trying insurance fraud or anything, and he's an outstanding citizen. The two move away to live with family after that. Grandpa passed away not too long ago. Mom takes me to see the site of the house a week later. Somebody had rebuilt it around the brick foundation. She bursts into tears and we drive away. Never talks about it again.
Now, after writing all of this, I have to add that little 12-year-old me was very skeptical of the paranormal and even of this. She told the story so well, but I had to wonder if she was somehow pulling my leg. She's never done anything like that to me, though. To this day it sounds too much like a movie. Yet she swore to me that it happened and she was so disturbed by it.
Okay, X, let's get this over with. I have been debating whether to tell this story for a while now. I speaks English with an apology, as it is not my first language. I live in a country called Georgia.
You speaks English with an apology? I can just hear that in like Popeye's voice. I speaks English with an apology. Oh, my Popeye is way off. I'm strong to the finish 'cause I eats me spinach. I feel like it's an octave too high. Anyway.
Georgia after school is over one summer, and several of my friends decided to go out of town a bit and a bit of adventure travel. The weather is beautiful and can be a very hot summer in Georgia. Saul and my friends, 7 them all together, were enjoying long walks.
Down.
The first few days, it was so much fun to drink and smoke, and we were laughing and everybody's having fun. However, we have a friend called Alex, and we were going with that little crazy man. Not a bad man, but he is not afraid of anything. One night we were camping in the forest clearing. It's getting dark, so we will all go and get some more firewood, and I and my friend look up a knife and go to cut the sticks. We are there because we have been drinking for a while, and we get a bit lost, and my friend are very frightened and hear rustling in the woods. This is a very dark to find out what it is exactly, but it was coming closer. I call out and out comes running out screaming Alex, trying to scare us. We laugh it off and say, "Yes, I was so scared I almost cut him." He said that our friends have not seen us for a while and came to find us because they are a little worried about us. As he speaks, the smell hits me a punch in the face, almost vomiting, and ask him why he smells so bad. He tells me that on the way back, he wants to show us something. So, we walked back and I am still confused why it smells so bad. About a 10-minute walk, we arrive at what looks like a former bunker again. The smell hits me in the stomach, worse than what Alexa smells. Tears came to my eyes and asked if Alexa came here. He said he did, but even he was scared and went to find with us and come back. Lokub is looking at me and says that he is not comfortable, but I want him around because he has the knife and is a very strong man. We enter this bunker and it's so dark and so cold, but it is also completely silent. The smell is getting worse, because we are on our way to the bunker, and in the end I have to take off my shirt and cover the nose and mouth to stop the smell. As I take off my shirt and wrap it around my face, one of my friends pushing me to the ground, and I know they run off laughing. I get up and I see them nowhere, but still hear them laughing in the distance. I do not see very good for my part in the dark and start trying to find a way back. As I was feeling along the wall, I feel my turn to go through something soft. My eyes focus on the dark and I just vomit everywhere. I just stuck my hand into the eye of the dead man. I look at it further to try and work out why he died, and I can see that around the neck, a dent. I am so confused because I do not see the rope to hang themselves. Understand that this is a bad smell that I smell. I just try and get back and try and decide not to kill my friends. Lokub still had the knife, so I'm just in a bunker at pitch black and I am calling out to my friends. As I was screaming their names, I hear something. I stop for a moment and it is completely silent, and so I ignore it. I walk a few stops and I hear it again. At this time I was really scared and just start running. I can still hear the noise flip and fall over, and the noise stops. I'm scared. I get up and hear the shuffling. It is at this point I realize that noise going on at the same time. I am moving. I take another step in the dark, and yes, I understand the two-step. One of mine, one of someone else's. I spin around and look behind me. I cannot see very far in the distance, but I do not see anyone at all. I take a step back. A moment later my step lands. I hear something else's move on the ground. I was almost crying at this point. Suddenly, I feel a drip on my shoulder. My shirt off and wrapped around my face. Touched it and it is sticky, but it is still wet. I am stunned and just stand there for a minute. The distance, I hear footsteps and I think my friends and turn around and take a step forward. This step is the worst I've ever taken in my life. I felt cold, wet rope tighten around my neck. I walked straight into a noose and felt being cut up in the air. Now I can hear laughter. Open your mouth and try to laugh, that's what it sounded like. I looked up at the roof and see what haunts me to this day. I can see the outline of what looks like a short, bald man. He was naked, and he is the head of a body. But where his legs start is the mass and then 4 or 5 small stumpy legs sprouting out. How he had been gripping on the roof I do not know. I understand that it was in his footsteps that have been chasing me. A great big tongue hangs out of his mouth, and it comes down and wrapped around my neck. I try to pull it off, but the more I pull the more it tightens and yanks me up. I am not sure whether it's laughing loud or I just got closer, but it gets louder and louder. My eyes grow clim and I cannot fight anymore and start to piss myself as a little girl all of a sudden. I hear this terrible screaming and I let loose. I heard the footsteps of others before getting stopped up. Lokub was making his way back because he only wanted to scare me, and I will drop badly, because I come from him. He brought the knife and cut the monster tongue, and I saw scuttle off screaming and crying across the ceiling. I ran with Lokub and leave the bunker. I'm so scared. To this day I do not know what it was and I do not want to go back. I gathered all my things and left the camp and walked back the same day, Lokub and knife. It was 12 years ago. Since then I have never spoken to Alexei again, and Lokub hanged himself last June.
Holy shit.
I'm only writing this story, because my therapist told me that it would be good to write it down and it's off my chest. My friends say that he went back to the cave for a year, but because they are close to the road and it is guarded by the military security forces. I went to try in it recently, but seems to have been blocked off. I can still feel it in my neck at night sometimes, XL, so cold.
Do you know what a cordyceps is? I didn't either until 20 minutes ago. It's a family of thousands of different types of fungus, grows all around the world in various rainforests and jungles. The awful thing about them is they're parasitic, they grow on other animals. An ant happens to run into some spores, and then it starts to colonize his insides, starting with his brain. At some point, the ant starts to act visibly ill, standing in place and shivering, or walking in circles. If a fellow colony member sees him in this condition, he will be dragged to the border of the colony and exiled. Then, when it's almost over, the ant weakly climbs as high as he can up the vines, and locks his body on tight. Finally, he dies, and the fungus emerges from the back of his head, bursting forth like a long and foul fruit. After a short time, the little stalk spews forth its own spores, leaving the mummified and broken ant clinging to the stalk, his eye cavities filled with drying fungus. I mention this because last night...
Oh wait, love. The character reference, the straight hair in the reference, but the bangs are in ringlets. Do you want straight hair or ringlets throughout the rest of the hair? Oh, ringlets, please, cheese. You got it, love. Hold on. Oh. I still have to go on an errand sometime today to pick up some I think it was hominy corn. My mom's gonna make some menuda stew tonight. Why did I stay up so late watching Better Call Saul? Because it's a good fucking show, man. Oh yeah, that's right. I got to finish watching it. I'm gonna finish watching it this weekend. Oh my god, it's getting so good. Fucking love it. And from like the title of like a review YouTube video I saw, it gives me the impression that it's like the perfect ending to cap off not only Better Call Saul but Breaking Bad, because it's sort of like it's a spin-off, but it's like sort of like a prequel and a sequel to that show, because in this prequel, like you get to see the events of Saul's character leading up to the events of Breaking Bad, but at the same time they show like black and white flash forwards to what Saul is doing presently. Like it's like a flash forward, like showing you events like Saul's life after the events of Breaking Bad. But for the most part, the show is just his life leading up to the events of Breaking Bad. But everything in black and white is just his life, just him trying to piece his life back together after Breaking Bad. But oh my god, it's it's getting so good. Better Call Saul. Oh, you just finished watching Breaking Bad? So fucking cool, man. I binged that show several times over after watching it the first time. And I might have to binge it again, because like the better Breaking Bad is like just 5 seasons long, but Better Call Saul is 6 seasons long. And that movie El Camino is a good movie for what it is. Like it's not like fucking action packed or anything, but it's like a good resolution for Pinkman's character, I think. And it like if you go into that movie like expecting like a lot of like action or whatever, or like other resolutions, like I guess don't, like if you're gonna watch El Camino, just consider it to be like a movie length episode of Breaking Bad. But yeah, like it's like a good resolution, like a better resolution for like Jesse Pinkman's character, because Breaking Bad was like where it left him off, like it was pretty ambiguous. Like you just see him driving off into the night, and just left to think of like what'll come of him. But then El Camino comes by and just like answers some of those questions and puts him on a more stable, definitive ending. But yeah, fucking the show is so fucking good. So I'm gonna be spending my weekend just fucking finishing Better Call Saul. Awesome.
When I was up on the roof of my apartment complex, I found my brother's body. He's been back from 18 months on duty in the Philippines for less than 3 days. This was the first I'd seen him. My parents called me up the day before yesterday to tell me that he was on his way up. They told me he'd stayed in his room since he got home, and then suddenly got up and announced he was on his way to see me. They thought he was drunk. I thought he'd never made it. He must have come straight up to the roof and died, by the smell of it. I was just finishing a cigarette, all tum up with anxiety and head throbbing, and when the acrid smoke vanished I caught a whiff of rot on the hot wind. It took me just a few minutes before I'd found him, face down behind the vents and fans. A slimy gray column rose up obscenely from the base of his skull, and a frozen waterfall of roots and tendrils was dangling from his eye sockets and mouth. At the top of stalk was small arrangement of feathery wisps, a white powder drifting idly from its tips. The spores must have drifting over the north side of the building all day. My side of the building? I came down to my apartment to try to call up the police, and my headache was rising to a feverish throb. I got through the door, and the moment I reached for the phone, pain flared in my head so bad I almost passed out. I've since tried 3 times and I can never get my hand up on it. The same thing happens when I try to get up and leave the room. I feel spines of ice tunneling up into my skull and my limbs lock up and shudder. The ants in their last moments crawl as high up the vines as he can climb. This is so the spore will spread over more of the colony below. In the end, the parasite controls the ant with an almost intelligent drive. God help me. The pain is almost blinding now, and a new thought has been rising up rhythmically in my head, like a record skipping. Up, up, up. It's joined by an image of my office tower. It's taller than my apartment, the tallest place I can think of, and although the bulge on the back of my neck is the size of a peach, the skin stretched shiny, and I'm dizzy and my eyes are cloudy, I think I can make it there. Up. No. I'm sick. I need help. The building pulses again in my mind. The cold wind. The roof and the sky. These images and concepts dull the pain momentarily as they pass through my mind. I think I can get there. Up. Up. If you live in downtown Chicago, I would get the fuck out.
Playing with runts, do you ever get lonely? Sometimes you wish you had a few friends you could run around and play with. Well, there are 3 little runts who are just dying to play with someone. They'll play hide and go seek with you, but first you need to go into their home and let them out. Now, in order to get to their home, you'll need to prepare your mind, for they don't live anywhere you'll find in your world. You'll need the following items: a children's camping lantern or a plastic flashlight. Metal and mag lights will not work. A glass of warm milk, a bar of dark chocolate, a red marker or some red lipstick, a feather and headband, a bowl of salt. Now that these are gathered, you must first prepare your house. Block.
Lame. Lame ritual pasta. Oh, this thing is chopped up into chapters. Fuck. Ritual pastas are so dumb.
Off any room you don't want these runts dabbling about in with a line of salt. It must connect to 2 ends of a doorway or 2 walls. There must be more than 1 open room for them to run around in, or they will get bored, and they don't like to get bored. However, there must not be an open doorway or a window where the runts may escape into the world, or they might get lost, and mother doesn't like her children getting lost. It is important that all windows are locked or have a line of salt in their way. It would be best if you used both. Now you must turn off every light in your house. You may aim night light per room if you should choose any light at all. Unplug all digital clocks or LED electronics.
Now that your house is prepared, you are ready to begin the journey to their house. You must wear the headband and feather, and use the red marker or lipstick to create a dash on both cheeks. You will drink the warm glass of milk, and eat but 1 piece of chocolate. Leave the rest of the chocolate somewhere in the room. You will begin the next step in. They will be hungry when they get to you. You will now take your flashlight and yourself underneath a blanket, and you will lay with your full body underneath the blanket. You will look at the flashlight and turn it on and off and say to yourself the following poem. Dibble dabble nibble nabble, knives and nooses poison apples, RLL come and take your from your cage. From mother's fingers come and play. You will begin to doze off, but you'll find yourself in the room you were in prior underneath the blanket. However, the walls will look as if the wallpaper was skin. The black carpet moist between your toes in every step. A lingering stench like rotten food and piss. You will notice there is only 1 door in the room in your nightmare. In case you had any other doors, you will notice they are now sealed. You must take your flashlight and leave that door. Now you are in their house. You must find their room. Their whispers will guide you. Listen closely. When you begin to hear nothing, mother is near. Mother protects her children. Should this occur to you, she is near, you must turn off your light and hide underneath a table or somewhere. Mother will check underneath each and every one with her long slender fingers. You must listen for the scratching and maneuver around them in the dark so she does not touch you. Once you hear the wet sound of her fingers dragging back on the moist carpet and her moving away, you must still wait. When you begin to hear the whispers again, you are good to continue looking for them. Once you have found their room, you will see them in a cage. Simply open the gate and they will be oh so excited. Now you must get back to the room you started in as fast as you can. Mother will soon find her children are missing and she will come looking for them, so you must hurry to the room and get underneath the blanket again along with the little ones. Turn the light on and off again and repeat the poem you said earlier to get there. You will find yourself dozing off again, and alas, you will awake back in your room where you fell asleep. If it worked properly, the chocolate should be missing. Do not turn any lights on, only use your flashlight.
Chair updates? Let me check. I doubt Amazon will give me any more updates. but the FedEx truck. Oh, it says it was delivered today. I gotta go check this. It says it was left at my front door. I'll be right back. Oh, man. Excuse me, Douglas. Excuse me. Ah. Ah. Well, that's kind of heavy. Well, yeah, that's a pleasant surprise, isn't it? Here I thought they'd have trouble finding my place. But yeah, There it is. So, I think since I've been streaming for like 2.5 hours, 2 hours 40 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and take a break and see if I can put this bad boy together. Finally came. My ass will be very thankful. Better not show that shipping label. Oh. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. All good. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Fucking nice. Anyway, it is about time for a break. So I shall kick this back on after I have a little bit of a break. Put this chair together, and we'll see after that. So, big shout out, much appreciation and props go to my lovely moderator Melody for fronting the cash for the negative amount HughesNet has left me with. So now I have enough money to pay some of the bills that are coming out tomorrow, and I'll be online. I'll be streaming again later to continue this donation stream because I'll still need gas money in order to resolve this HughesNet debacle and get my reimbursement. So yeah, fucking sweet. Anyway, thanks to all those who participated in chat. It's always awesome interacting with all of you. As always, my lovely moderator Melody, Isel Macintosh was here, Dasco Draws dropped by, and some user is here. So fucking kick ass, man. Kick fucking ass. And to all the lurkers who are watching or checking this out later, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and donate if you wish. Either one of those options would be very much appreciated. So until next time, later today, this has been Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I shall check y'all later. Sweet. Bye.